What if I told you that some of the most advanced scientific discoveries of the modern world were mentioned over 1,400 years ago in a single book? A book revealed in a desert to a man who could not read and could not write. No laboratories, no microscopes, no telescopes, no satellites. And yet, statements about human life, about the universe, and about reality itself that scientists only confirmed centuries later. This is not science fiction. This is not mythology. And this is not about replacing science. This is about something much deeper. This is about the Qur'an. Now, before you react, pause. The Qur'an does not claim to be a science textbook. It does not give formulas. It does not teach physics like a classroom. Instead, it presents signs, statements meant to be reflected upon, thought about, and discovered over time. And here's the question that keeps coming back. How could such precise knowledge exist at a time when humanity had no tools to discover it? Let's start where every human story begins, inside the womb. For most of history, people believed that a baby was created fully formed and simply grew larger inside the mother. There was no understanding of stages, no concept of development, no embryology. Even ancient philosophers, respected minds of their time, were completely wrong about how human life forms. Now listen carefully. The Qur'an describes human creation as a process, not a single event. It speaks of a drop, then something that clings, then a chewed-like form, then bones, and then flesh covering those bones. Today, modern embryology confirms that human development happens in clear sequential stages, not all at once, not randomly, but step by step. What makes this unsettling is not just the sequence, but the descriptions. Some of the Quranic terms match the actual appearance of the embryo at those stages, something that can only be seen today with advanced microscopes and imaging technology. In the 7th century, there was no way to see this, no way to verify it, no way to guess it accurately. And yet, the stages are there. This forced many modern researchers to ask an uncomfortable question. Was this coincidence or knowledge beyond the time? Now lift your eyes from the womb to the entire universe. For thousands of years, human beings believed the universe was static, unchanging, fixed, eternal. Even early scientists believed this. Then came the 20th century. With powerful telescopes and mathematics, astronomers discovered something that shattered old beliefs. The universe is expanding. Galaxies are moving away from each other. Space itself is stretching. The universe is not still, it is growing. This discovery revolutionized cosmology. And yet, quietly, without explanation, the Qur'an describes the heavens as being expanded and continuing to expand. Not expanded once, but actively expanding. This is critical, because ancient worldviews believed the sky was solid, unchanging, and fixed in place. The Quranic description does not match ancient ideas. It matches modern science. At the time of revelation, there were no galaxies, no concept of cosmic motion, no understanding of space-time. Yet the statement is there, simple, calm, waiting for humanity to reach the moment where it finally makes sense. Think about that. From the smallest scale, human life forming in darkness, to the largest scale, the universe itself expanding, the Qur'an speaks in a way that does not clash with discovery, but unfolds alongside it. And this is only the beginning, because there are more signs about iron coming from beyond Earth, about invisible barriers in the oceans, about water as the foundation of all life. Discoveries that required satellites, deep-sea exploration, and space research, yet the words existed long before the tools. So the real question isn't, is science mentioned in the Qur'an? The real question is, how did these statements survive time without being disproven, while so many ancient beliefs collapsed? Reflect on that. And if this made you pause, if it made you curious, then stay with this journey, because what comes next will challenge the way you look at science, history, and revelation itself. And now we move even further, from the sky above us to the ground beneath our feet. Because the next sign is not about something microscopic or something abstract, it's about iron, the backbone of modern civilization. Iron is everywhere, in our buildings, in our vehicles, in our tools, in our weapons, in our technology. Human progress is impossible without it. For a long time, people assumed iron was simply part of the earth, always here, formed naturally like soil or stone. But modern science revealed something unexpected. Most of the iron on Earth did not originate here. It was formed in the cores of massive stars and released through supernova explosions, then delivered to Earth through meteorites. In simple words, iron came from space. And here's what stops people in their tracks. The Qur'an does not say iron was created in the earth. It says iron was sent down. Not metaphorically explained, not scientifically detailed, just two words, simple, direct, precise. Sent down. At a time when humans had no idea what stars were made of, no idea about supernovas, no idea that elements could form beyond Earth. Yet again, the statement stands, not contradicted by science, but reinforced by it. Now let's go deeper, much deeper, into the oceans. If you stand at a coastline, you see water meeting water. It looks the same, it moves the same. But modern oceanography tells us that not all waters are equal. There are places where two seas meet, one salty, one fresh, yet they do not fully mix. There is an invisible boundary, a barrier that separates them.
This barrier cannot be seen by the human eye, but it exists due to differences in salinity, temperature, and density. For centuries, no one knew this. To the naked eye, water is just water. Yet the Qur'an describes two bodies of water meeting with a barrier between them that they do not cross. Not walls, not land, not visible borders, an unseen separation. Modern science discovered this only after advanced instruments, deep-sea exploration, and satellite observation. Once again, the words waited, quietly, for human knowledge to catch up. And now think about this. These statements were not hidden in obscure footnotes. They were recited aloud, memorized, repeated daily. If they were wrong, they would have been exposed long ago. Instead, they remain. Now let's talk about something even more basic, something every living thing depends on: water. Today, biology confirms a universal truth. Every known form of life requires water. No water, no life. But this understanding is modern. Ancient cultures believed life came from soil, from heat, from spontaneous generation. The Qur'an states something radically different. All living things are made from water. Not most, not many, all. This statement aligns perfectly with modern biology and cellular science. Water is the foundation of life at the cellular level. Without it, nothing survives. And then there are the mountains. To ancient people, mountains were symbols of strength, but nothing more, just tall structures on the surface of the earth. Modern geology revealed something astonishing. Mountains have deep roots. They extend far beneath the Earth's crust, acting like stabilizing pegs. They help balance tectonic plates and reduce instability. The Qur'an describes mountains as pegs placed into the earth, not decorations, not accidents, stabilizers. This language only makes sense after plate tectonics was discovered. Before that, it would have sounded meaningless, but now it fits. Piece after piece, scale after scale, from embryos to galaxies, from iron to oceans, from water to mountains. Each statement alone could be dismissed, but together, they form a pattern, not of scientific instruction, but of knowledge ahead of its time. And this brings us to the real point. The Qur'an does not force belief. It invites reflection. It does not say believe blindly. It says think, observe, question, discover. Science explains how things work. The Qur'an asks why. And when the two meet, they do not clash, they align. So the question is no longer, can science explain these verses? The question becomes, why do these verses continue to make sense as knowledge advances while ancient myths fall apart? That is not something to fear. That is something to reflect on. If this made you pause, if it challenged assumptions, then keep going. Because the deeper you look, the more the signs begin to speak. Not loudly, not aggressively, but patiently, waiting for those who are willing to think. And now pause for a second, because at this point something important needs to be said. None of this means that science comes from the Quran, and none of this means scientists read scripture to make discoveries. That is not the claim. Science works through observation, experimentation, and correction. It changes, it updates, it admits when it was wrong. And that's exactly where this becomes interesting. Because as science changes, these statements do not collapse. They don't need revision. They don't get fixed. They don't age poorly. Instead, they become clearer, like pieces of a puzzle that only make sense when enough time has passed. Think about how dangerous this was. If even one of these statements was wrong, just one, it would have been easy to dismiss everything. People would have said, this book reflects the limited knowledge of its time, and the discussion would have ended. But that didn't happen. Instead, with every major leap in knowledge, people returned to these verses, not to force science into them, but to ask a different question. How did this avoid error? And this is where many misunderstandings happen. The Quran does not say, look, I predicted your discoveries. It says something far more subtle. It points to signs in creation and asks human beings to observe. It assumes curiosity. It assumes progress. It assumes that humans will one day know more than they know now. That alone is remarkable, because most ancient texts are trapped in their time. Their cosmology is outdated. Their biology is incorrect. Their understanding of nature collapses under scrutiny.
But here, there is restraint, no unnecessary detail, no incorrect explanations, just statements that sit quietly, waiting. And this brings us to something even deeper. Why are these statements spread out? Why not list everything clearly? Why not explain it all? Because the goal was never to overwhelm. The goal was to guide, to make people look at the world and realize that knowledge itself points beyond itself. That discovery does not remove meaning, it reveals it. And here's the most important part. This conversation is not about proving anything to anyone. Belief is not forced, faith is not coerced, reflection is invited. Some people will see coincidence, some will see metaphor, some will see signs. And all of those responses are human. But no honest thinker can deny this. A book from the 7th century should not be able to survive the 21st century without being exposed. And yet, here we are, still reading, still questioning, still discovering. And maybe that's the point, that the Quran does not compete with science. It walks alongside it, asking the same question in a different language. What does this tell you about reality? If this made you stop scrolling, if it made you think, then that's already enough. Because thinking is where every discovery begins. Stay curious, stay reflective, and don't be afraid to ask difficult questions. The signs are there for those who are willing to look.